Hello everyone, I'm Sven Ronning and this is my channel, Violin Axioms, where we break apart violin technique into little bite-sized ideas for you to digest and build into your playing. Today we're going to explore 5 axioms for better shifting, how to shift better, how to shift more accurately. So let's get right into that. Because all of these axioms, there are many of them, I would just remind you before we get going, please subscribe to the channel so that you get the full picture, all of the ingredients that go into playing better. Subscribe to Violin Axioms so that you've got all of them in your toolbox. Okay, so 5 axioms for better shifting. The first one is that the right hand and the left hand of your body move at the same speed. So I think it's intuitively obvious. For example, if I'm giving you a lecture, right, or which I of course I am, that you can see that my hands, if I make gestures, they tend to move at the same speed and in mirror image to each other. If you watch my eyes blink, right, they're going to blink at the same time and at the same speed. In fact, it would take some odd effort to not do that. So this is something called synchronization in medicine. It's the 2 halves of the body want to do the same thing. And you can verify this as so. If you want to just airplay the violin with me for a moment. And try to keep your shifting even while you move the bow really quickly. And you may not be able to do it at all, right? Or even if you can do it, you'll find that it's going to take a lot more brain energy to make that happen. So whenever possible, you want to exploit the parallel motion, the mirrored motion that the 2 halves of the body make. So let's just look at that, how it actually looks in shifting. That is going to give me the most elegant shift. Now watch what happens to the sound if I start to shift much faster than the bow. You're going to hear that it becomes kind of klutzy. Or if I try and shift slower than the bow, it's actually really hard to do. And that is also, it gives a kind of clumsy feeling. So integrating those 2 whenever possible, and by the way, it's not always possible, but mostly that's what you want. So the right hand and the left hand move at the same speed. Okay, for bigger shifts, this is really true, but even for smaller shifts, when you are going high, you want to make sure that you go up before you go around. And let me show you how this is true. If you want to just put your left hand in playing position with me here without the instrument for a moment, and try to scratch your back. Okay? I'm sure you're going to find there's some tension here in the back of your arm, and your arm really can't get very far back to scratch your back. But if I wanted to reach much farther, we all know that we can actually do this. If I wanted to scratch my back, I would first raise my shoulder and then reach my elbow around. You can try that, and you can see that your range of motion is much, much greater if you raise your shoulder and elbow before you bend your shoulder and reach around. So this is also going to be true when you make shifts, that if you want to be able to get around the instrument a lot, the order in which you move your joints matter. If I move it first this way and then try to reach, I will have very limited ability to reach. However, if I do this first and then reach around, I'm going to have a much greater range of motion. So it is always up before around, always up before around, even on the way down. So the motion is going to be in a hoop like this. And I like to call this, this idea flying over the pole. And the reason I call it that is because if you've ever been on a flight or seen routes of airline routes, you always see them, right, in hoops. You don't see a line from New York to London or from Chicago to Moscow or whatever it might be. You will see a hoop, right, because you're flying over the curvature of the earth and so on. And if you've watched my channel before, you know that almost everything we do as violinists is in circles and in loops. So in this case, what we are doing is we are kind of imagining going up and then flying over that curvature. Okay, so we're using that circular motion for greater reachability. All right, now I'm going to translate that onto the instrument for a second, and you can see how it actually works. So let's say I'm going to pick up a quite difficult shift to execute, like first position to seventh position. And I'm not even going to bother playing this with the bow, so we're not going to hear it. We're just going to see it. And when I do this, if I go this way and then come around, there is going to be a great deal of struggle and a lot of tension in my back shoulder and back arm here to come around. However, if I go up first, my range of motion is going to be much easier and greater, and you can see that that I can actually reach past the G string, whereas I'd be hard pressed to even reach the G string with the fourth finger if I were using just the forearm. Okay, so always sort of raise the elbow first and then come around. It also looks really great. Okay, it looks really glamorous, but that is not why we are doing it. It is just an issue of ergonomics. So fly over the pole. The order of motion of your joints always matters. It's always up first with the bigger joints and then around with the smaller ones. All right. Knowing the position that you are shifting to is the next axiom for better shifting. So I think it's a great way to think about this, that you're not just shifting from one note to another note, but from one collection of notes in first position to another collection of notes in third position or fourth position or fifth position or whatever. So as I make if I'm going for example, on the A string, in first position, playing B, C sharp, D, and E, and then going to fourth position and playing E, F sharp, G natural, and A, I want to keep my hand in that, to know that I'm going between those positions and to take not just the fourth finger that I might be playing in that moment, or the third finger, but to take the whole shape of the hand up there into that new position together. And let me just give you an idea of what I'm doing here. Notice that when I do this, it's not just one and one. It's not one and one that moves, but the whole hand moves. And you can probably see, if you've watched my channel before, you know that one of the things we've talked about is making sure that the angle of the fingers remains consistent as you move from position to position. So here I want to make sure that I take a whole constellation, a whole frame of notes together from one position to the next. So I know not only the notes that I'm going to, but the position. And that is in fact axiom number 4, that if you know the notes that you are playing, what gets labeled gets valued. So name what you're doing, name it, and then do it. You will remember it better. Those of you who have watched the channel before too know that we've talked about making sure that you hear it before you play it. So in this case, if I'm going from first to fourth position, first finger, I'm going from first position to fourth position, but I'm also going from B to E, and I should be able to sing that. If I can't, maybe I want to find those notes on the piano first and then play them and sing that to the piano and then translate that onto the instrument. Or for example, I could play the 2 notes on the piano and finger them on the instrument at the same time, okay? So in other words, knowing the distance and naming it is going to be important. But in addition, just being aware of all the other notes. So I'm going from B to E here, B to E to F sharp for the next one, B to E to G natural for the next one, B to E to A for the last one. And having all of that in place so that I'm moving in position at all times. I've gotten a little bit ahead of myself here. The last idea here is to know not only the names of the notes, but the interval. And the interval is to be able to hear it. If you've got perfect pitch, maybe you can just do this. You don't know how you do it, but you can hear those notes. If you don't, then you might need to say this distance is a perfect fourth, okay? And a perfect fourth is something that you'd have to learn about. It's beyond the scope of this video, but you can Google or write in the search box of YouTube. You can write in something like ear training and learning what intervallic distance is about so that you start to learn to hear that. You can play them on the piano. You might associate that interval with a particular tune. For example, that can help you. Or you can label the half steps. If you start with the bottom note B as being 0, and then count half steps on the piano keyboard, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That will take you to E. It'll be 5 half steps, otherwise known as the perfect fourth, okay? And just getting a good map of those distances is a great way to be able to anticipate them, okay? With that as well, associating those distances, you can, if you're looking at the music and counting the numbers of lines and spaces, that can also give you more information that you can later use to sight read distances like that. All right, as I do that, as I mentioned already, you want to be able to sing it and hear it, and then to feel it as you move to the new position, and not just that particular shift. For example, in this case, D to G, third finger, but all the other notes that are in the ecosystem of first position, B, C sharp, D, E, E, F sharp, G, A, okay? And really having all that spacing worked out so that I'm consistently moving at the same angle onto certain notes and memorizing all of that together. All right, so those are my 5 ideas, 5 axioms for better shifting. Of course, you have to practice these ideas, you have to incorporate them, build them into your playing, make them into habits. And so I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and then be on the lookout for how to practice the Axioms series. So we'll be looking at actual exercises and actual methods of incorporating all these ideas so that they become habits and just become part of who you are as a player. For that reason, I'll just say, see you in the next one.